You say sorry a lot, don't you? Not just when you make a mistake. You apologize when someone bumps into you. You apologize for asking a question. You apologize for taking too long
I
to
saw what you
reply.
said online,
Sometimes you even
and it
apologize
hurt my feelings.
for feeling something. And if you're honest, half the time you don't
I'm
even know why you
sorry
said
that
it.
you're
It
alone.
just slips out. I'm sorry. Two small words, but behind them, there's often a secret most people never see because people who apologize too much usually aren't weak. They're careful, careful with people's moods, careful with conflict, careful with being too much. And that habit usually didn't appear randomly. It started somewhere. Maybe you remember moments like this. You send a message, then immediately another one. Sorry if that sounded weird. Or you ask someone for help, and before they even answer, you say, "Sorry to bother you." Someone interrupts you while you're talking, and somehow you're the one who says sorry, even when you did nothing wrong. Pause for a moment and think about that. How many times have you apologized today without actually needing to? Most people think this habit is just politeness, but when someone apologizes constantly, something deeper is often happening inside their mind. Their brain has learned a quiet rule: keep the peace, avoid tension, don't make people uncomfortable. Even if it means shrinking yourself a little, this usually starts earlier than people realize, not always in obvious ways, not always through harsh experiences. Sometimes it starts in very small moments that repeat again and again, moments where a child learns something subtle about how the world works. Maybe you grew up in an environment where emotions were unpredictable, a house where the atmosphere could change quickly, where someone's bad mood filled the entire room. So you learned to read the room carefully. You watched people's expressions, you noticed tone changes, you sensed tension before anyone said a word. And without realizing it, you started managing it. You tried to smooth things over. You tried to avoid conflict. You tried to be the easy one. Children are incredibly good at adapting, but sometimes the strategies that help them survive emotionally follow them into adulthood. So now, years later, the habit still appears, not because you're afraid, but because your mind is trying to keep everyone comfortable, even strangers, even people who aren't upset, even situations where nothing is wrong. Your brain is simply running an old program. If I apologize first, things will stay calm. But here's the strange part: people who apologize too much are often the same people who care deeply about others. They notice subtle emotions most people miss. They sense tension in conversations. They pick up on awkward pauses. They worry about hurting someone, even accidentally. So they say sorry, just in case. But over time, something interesting happens. The word sorry slowly stops meaning what it's supposed to mean because you begin using it for things that were never mistakes. You apologize for asking. You apologize for existing in a space. You apologize for taking time. And eventually, you start apologizing for being yourself. Pause and reflect on this for a moment. When was the last time you apologized? Just for having a need? Think about it. You ask someone to repeat something. Sorry. You express a different opinion. Sorry. You take a little longer to decide. Sorry. And if someone else becomes slightly uncomfortable, you instantly assume the responsibility. This is the hidden emotional weight behind constant apologies. You start carrying responsibility for other people's feelings, even when those feelings were never yours to manage. Imagine walking through life constantly trying to keep every room peaceful, every conversation smooth, every interaction safe. That level of awareness can be exhausting because you're always adjusting, always monitoring, always making sure you didn't accidentally create tension. And here's the part most people never realize: the person apologizing the most is often the person who has spent the longest time trying not to be a burden. Maybe you felt this before. You hesitate before asking for help. You hesitate before sharing something personal. You hesitate before speaking honestly. Because somewhere deep inside, a quiet thought appears: I don't want to inconvenience anyone. But there's another side to this story, and it's something many people only realize much later. Constant apologizing is rarely about guilt, it's about safety. When someone grows up learning that harmony matters more than expression, their mind creates a shortcut: reduce friction, stay agreeable, smooth things over. And the fastest way to do that? Say sorry, even if the situation didn't require it. But here's the quiet truth: apologizing for things that aren't wrong slowly teaches your mind something dangerous. It teaches you that your presence needs permission. And once that idea settles in, you begin shrinking parts of yourself without noticing. You talk a little less. You hesitate a little more. You soften your opinions. You minimize your needs. But something inside you eventually begins to notice that constant apologizing doesn't actually make life easier. It just makes you smaller. And one day, a subtle shift begins to happen. You pause before saying the word. You catch yourself. You realize this isn't something I need to apologize for. Maybe the first time feels strange. You ask a question without saying sorry. You express an opinion without softening it. You take up space in a conversation, and nothing terrible happens. In fact, something surprising happens. People respect clarity. They understand honesty. They don't fall apart because you didn't apologize. Because the truth is, healthy relationships don't require constant apologies. They require honesty, balance, and mutual understanding. So if you're someone who apologizes too much, it might not mean you're insecure. It might mean you've spent a long time trying to protect peace, trying to protect people, trying to protect relationships. And that instinct probably came from a place of kindness, but kindness toward others shouldn't require constant permission to exist. The next time the word sorry almost slips out automatically, pause for a moment. Ask yourself a simple question: did I actually do something wrong? Or did my mind just try to keep the peace again? Because once you begin noticing that difference, something slowly changes. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop apologizing for asking. You stop apologizing for being human. And when that happens, your voice becomes clearer. Your presence becomes stronger. And strangely, your relationships often become more honest too, because people who apologize too much usually carry a secret. They spent a long time believing their presence needed justification, but it never did.